Welcome to the Brand You podcast, where we design a blueprint for your professional value in the new economy. I'm your host, Melise Pinetta. This is our very first episode, and we are kicking things off by tackling the single biggest variable that is reshaping our careers right now, and that is speed. This week on my channels, we started a critical conversation around a shocking piece of data. The fact that it took ChatGPT just 2 months to reach 100 million users. That's a feat that took the internet about 7 years to reach. This is not a trivia point. It's a bombshell piece of information. It suggests the timeline for professional adaptation has been collapsed. It suggests you don't have as much time as you think you do to get ready for what is likely going to be a mass reshuffle, as predicted by some thought leaders in the industry like LinkedIn and McKinsey and OpenAI and Meta and all of those folks. The response has been incredible, and it's raised really brilliant questions. I got a lot of questions from people, but today I'm going to answer just a few of the questions that came up multiple times from folks. Our first question comes from Sarah. She is a director of product. She writes, Melise, you have shared that a shocking stat about ChatGPT's adoption speed. It's compelling, but is it really different from technological adoptions in the past, like the internet and all of that kind of stuff? It feels like we've seen the next big thing before. That is a good question, Sarah, because it gets to the heart of why so many leaders may be underestimating this exact moment. You're right. We've seen new technologies before, but evidence suggests that there's two things that are fundamentally different this time. The first one is the nature of the technology. The internet was a communication and information layer, and it still is. That hasn't changed. It changed how we did our work. AI, on the other hand, is a cognitive and creation leader in addition to communication and information. It has more than what the internet had. It is beginning to change what work is being done by humans. And that's the difference. That would be the difference between getting a faster car and getting a teleportation device. They're just fundamentally different. They get you to the same endpoint, but they do it differently. So they're not in the same category, is what I'm trying to say. The second thing, Sarah, I want to share is, and this is a really crucial point, it's the lack of friction. All right. The adoption of the internet required massive physical build out. They needed modems, they needed routers, they needed computers and homes and computers at work. And that was a lot more than what we're doing right now. Adapting to generative AI requires a web browser and a little bit of money. The barrier to entry on that particular attribute is lower, much, much lower. So when you combine a technology that can automate cognitive work in near zero barriers to adoption, it's very likely that you won't get a normal tech cycle. The risk is that old ways of work and old ways of approaching things won't work in the new model. And that's what's different. Our next question is from David, a senior engineer, and it represents a view that many people share. So David asks, I hear the talk about speed and disruption, but my day-to-day job has not really changed. My company is still Flow. Isn't this just hype for something that probably won't actually end up impacting me? This is a really good question, David. And what you were describing is absolutely real. It's what we're calling the corporate adoption lag. It's almost like a deceptive calm before the potential storm, if you will. So you're right. Most companies, especially the larger companies, they're going to lag, right? It's slower. They're tangled with security concerns. They're concerned about ROI. They have to figure out how it's all going to work within their company. They need to make sure it makes sense for them. All of that stuff has to happen. So there's a lot of analytical thinking that's going on, decision-making that's happening. It is not as easy as just turning on the lights of AI and everyone will figure out what that means for that company. So they've got a lot of work to do. All right. They got to figure out how to build those tools and how to get people to adopt the tools, et cetera. But here's the critical insight. History suggests that corporations won't stay in the lag forever. Competition is likely going to force them to catch up. And because the technology is developing so rapidly, the catch-up phase probably won't be this gradual linear process. there's a risk that it's going to feel much more like a sudden jump, more like a violent, a more disruptive jump. So if you're feeling safe in your job, especially if your job can be automated, you might want to start getting your head wrapped around the fact that your job might very well change in a meaningful way in a shorter amount of time than you think. So that stability that you're feeling right now, it might just simply be temporary. So the real question is your career strategy, are you prepared for the moment that lag ends and what that means for you and for your career? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Check out our audit tool, the Brand You Blind Spot Audit. That can help you figure out where you're at. This brings us to a fantastic question from Maria, and Maria is a product manager. So she writes, I'm starting to believe that the threat is real, but I'm struggling to connect the dots. How does something as abstract as a personal brand or a professional brand actually help me in a concrete way when this high-speed disruption hits? How does a brand weather the storm, like you keep saying? Okay, Maria, this is a very important question, and I'm very glad that you asked it. It's the bridge from the problem to the solution is really what we're presenting here. The best way to think about your professional brand is it gives you some insurance. It sort of builds a bit of a moat around you because a good brand gives people an understanding of what to expect, right? There's consistency there. There's understanding. And that's what you get when you build yourself a brand. A traditional career is like living in a house you don't own in a town with only one employer. Your security is completely tied to that one employer. If the factory shuts down or the job changes and the company wants more AI and less people, you could lose your job or your job could change in a meaningful way. But when you have a powerful professional brand, it does three concrete things for you. The first thing it does is it diversifies your value. A strong brand establishes your expertise with the entire market, not just your current boss. It means your value is recognized by hundreds of potential employers simultaneously. All right. The second is it builds like a career lifeboat for you. A brand, through content and networking, it builds you a dedicated audience and a network that knows exactly what problems you and your brand specifically typically solve. If a disruption does hit, you're not starting from scratch, sending out resumes into a void, which is what a lot of us feel these days. You have a lifeboat, you have a network of advocates, you have a platform to immediately signal your value to the market. And then the third thing it does is it creates inbound opportunities for you. This is the ultimate defense. A strong brand is what makes people seek you out. So you're not competing in the slush pile. You're getting invited into opportunities through the door, through the side door. You're not just biting it out and duking it out because people have been following you. They know you. They know what you're all about and they want that, right? So that's what you're trying to do. So brand isn't an abstract concept, right? Branding is not new. You see brands everywhere out in the market. We invest in branding because it works. So invest in that branding for yourself. It's a tangible asset. It gives you option, it gives you visibility, and it gives you a lot of negotiating power in an unstable market. And that leads perfectly to our last question from Michael. He is a recent MBA grad. He asks, this is a little bit overwhelming. If my old career playbook is obsolete, what's the first thing I need to be doing? What is the first step I need to take? Well, that's a really good question, Michael. The first step is always your diagnosis. So where are you now? You can't figure out what you want to get to and how to get there unless you know where you currently are today. You can't build the new strategy until you have the assessment of your starting point is the best way to think about it. So before you build a brand, you have to understand where are your blind spots? What are you good at? What are you not good at? How are you being perceived in the market? Is your brand an engine for your future or is it an anchor to your past? What I'd recommend is take our blind spot audit tool. You'll find it on www.brandyoupro.ca/blind spot audit. But what it gives you, first of all, it's completely free, but it gives you a diagnostic of where you stand and how you're being viewed in the market today. And that clarity, that's the foundation for everything else. That's your first starting point. So go ahead and do that now. Also, check out the Resilient Career Series because that is a full playbook, okay? That's what you do. All right. That's all the time we have this week on the Brand New Podcast. The theme is clear. The pace of change has most likely changed forever. The old maps are becoming obsolete. Next week, we're going to dive deeper into that corporate adoption lag. We're going to explore some of the historical parallels. We're going to discuss what it really means when the enterprise decides to catch up. Until then, I want you to remember you are far more valuable than you think. You need to uncover that value and you need to showcase it to the world. For more on this or other information, sign up for our newsletter. You'll find it on www.brandupro.ca. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikToks, and all the socials. We're putting out new content all the time to help people navigate their way through what's probably going to be a bit of a stormy ride ahead for people's careers.